I'm originally from Jersey. In about 2012, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I took a job at a veterans hospital. It was a federal job. I liked it there, so it wasn't long before I bought a house there and got set up. There was a supervisor, and whatever he had a problem with me, he took a radio we use for communication. And he took the radio and he shook it in my face. I was kind of backed into a corner. Everybody was in, like, at a big table. You're going to keep this with you and you're going to keep it charged at all time. You're going to return it to me. And I'm a self-respecting man, and nobody's going to sit there and shake a goddamn radio in my face. I said something like, you need to get out of my space, you know, get away from me, get out of my space. Nothing like really threatening. I don't even think I stood up. But he listened pretty quick, so that was about the end of it, I thought. A couple hours went by. These guys went and sat in a room and came up with a story that I threatened. A lot of things that I didn't say. They quoted me saying, like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Another guy said, I'm gonna kick your head in. And they weren't even, like, really consistent. I had to go to see the director about it, which was like going to see the high school principal. Turned out she was actually very understanding. I did my best to talk to her about it. Federal VA police that are at the VA hospitals, and wrote me an actual ticket for disorderly conduct based on what all these jokers came up with. It was either like pay the fine, it was like $175, or it was a long drawn out thing. And I wanted it to be a long drawn out thing. I was going to pay some fine where I know I wasn't, I didn't do anything wrong, but I had like 3 witnesses that had their story one way, and I'm one guy and I have a story that's another way, so who are they going to listen to? I didn't tell anybody I was going to pay the fine, so they had to go to federal court, testify that I threatened the guy. I guess I would have been there to, you know, in my own defense, but I waited until like a day before the court date and I paid the fine, so they wouldn't have any time to notify these piece of trash yo-yos, and that there was no need for them to come to the federal court. So I paid the fine, kept my mouth shut, and like the next day they all went down there in their little coats and stuff, getting their stories all together, and sat there all morning, only to find out that there was no such case anymore because I just paid the dumb disorderly conduct. So I didn't talk to them. They didn't talk to me anymore after that. I just didn't bother with them, which was fine because there's other people. For 3 or 4, you know, piece of garbage yo-yos, there was hundreds of people I saw every day that were, you know, really nice. So a little time went by. Little turkey-faced little punk shows up from Virginia. This dude was like nowhere. You know, we were talking about like the supervisor. I'll try and do right by him. You know, that kind of thing. He was naive, was what he was, but simple as shit, this guy. One of his first assignments was to accompany myself and another guy to another like an outreach clinic. It was about like an hour drive away or something. Myself and this other guy were talking a lot with him on the drive, and the story came up about that yo-yo supervisor that was shaking the radio in my face and how that whole story went down. And so my other co-worker was telling him about the story. The running joke for the day was that like I'm like a psycho guy, or I'm violent, or, you know, it's just between us. We were laughing like, oh, I won't look at you wrong, you know, you'll kill me, ha ha ha, you know, that kind of thing. I gave him my number, so did my co-worker, and we both told him, you know, if you need anything, feel free to give me a shout. He did need something, whatever it was. He asked me a question. It was via text message. I told him whatever he needed to know, and during the text messages he kind of resorted back to the joke of that, like, I'm a psycho guy. Now we had a little kind of real quick, real short banter going back and forth. He said, yeah, I'm psycho too, you better watch your step. I replied with, you better grow eyes in the back of your head. That's exactly what I texted back to him. But it was like, ha-ha, you know. Here, I only met the guy once, you know. What the hell am I going to have against it? And it was totally, you know, taken out of context later. Fast forward months, like really like months. He starts gravitating towards the this little scumbag crowd. They had a little secret code, especially this nighttime supervisor that is like, oh yeah, oh that guy, was he, you know, meaning the color of his skin? Was he black, you know? I was really put off by these guys. I didn't bother with them for a long time, but this new fella kind of wound up making friends with him. It would just be like a bunch of bitches sitting there telling like little girly stories and hate, just a bunch of nowhere stuff. So as months passed on, they would sit in this break room. They might as well call it the workday room because that's all they did is sit in there. Meanwhile, I think time is just passing. I don't talk to them. They don't talk to me. They were kind of putting this little thing together the whole time. They kind of put together this statement and said he bullies people or he bows his chest up, like stupid shit like that. Like all they could say was, well, he only does it when nobody else is around. So that's why there's no witnesses. So, okay. Now this new guy, being friends with these freaking worthless scumbags, him being a worthless scumbag himself, decides to take this text message that we were joking around months and months beforehand, and he showed it to the supervisor. Now the supervisor's got like 3 guys saying, hey, he threatens people. Look at this text message he told the guy to grow eyes in the back of his head, and he printed it out, and it was on the piece of paper, like completely out of context, right? I didn't sweat it because I thought, hey, if anything really became of it, well, surely I could just recommend somebody ask to see the whole text conversation if you happen to save it for months and months. I mean, the hell, you fucking woman, what's the matter with you? One day I walked in to work, and he said, can we see you? You know? And it was like the supervisor, who couldn't lead a horse to freaking water to begin with, had 2 union people waiting in the office. Now I'm officially being told, if you threaten people, if you bully people, it has to stop today. I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying you didn't. I said, well, certainly. Couldn't agree with you more. I don't know what the hell you're really talking about, but I thought that was the end of it. And he said that if it continued, then there would be an investigation and it would go from there. That was nice of you, you little pot-smoking, everyday supervisor, stoned on the job idiot. Then I'm called into my supervisor's office. I was being served a no contact order. They have to officially give you notice that you don't contact this person, they're not to contact you, and it's just to keep any trouble further from arising while they're sorting it out, I guess. They came and told me that I had to go to a warehouse. That's where I was going to go work until they came to a decision. Worst case scenario, you know, you could be fired. Fired? Are you kidding me? This is like walking into a bad dream at this point, right? Like, so I went to this warehouse, about a day and a half of that, and that was a wrap. I was really unhappy and then frustrated. So I started using my leave, and I didn't go there. Finally, I go see the director. By this time, it's a new director. I thought I had everything pretty much laid out, but now here's the problem, is I'm one guy, and there's like 3 guys again. Because of that dumb idiot supervisor, racist piece of garbage that was shaking the radio in my face, that's on my work record now. So really, this is like the 2nd time that, you know, I was a problem. That's not good. I had to talk to a human resources specialist, which is like a little dirtball henchman for the director that does his little dirty, sassy work so he doesn't have to. When I was on my way to see this new director, I got an email from the union representative that was supposed to be supportive and my sort of like on my defense. The email I got from her was like a half hour. I was on my way there. I saw it on my smartphone. I'm not going to make it. I was like, holy Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Talk about a bad dream turning into a nightmare. I told her I was shocked. I told her I'll be following up with that, and that's really daggone wrong. I mean, Christ, a half hour beforehand. So I get there, and this human resources specialist, the little sissy henchman that I mentioned, all he was doing was talking about like, I really want to get home. I just want to get to my kid. I just want to get home to my kids. He's like looking at his watch, and I was like, oh, freaking director. Looked me in the eye when I walked into him, when I walked into his office, and I looked at him like, I'm like, man, this is not good. I'm 6'5", right? I'm about 280 pounds. Right off the bat, he was like, bully. I did my best to tell the story. One of my main points that I wanted to talk to him about was the text messages that were taken out of context to look like I really did threaten this guy. I thought that was like a direct reflection on the credibility of the whole situation. And all I had to do was tell him, well, my provider doesn't do the text message thing unless, you know, you have like a lawyer or something that goes through the motions to get But obviously this guy does have this text message history. If he gave it to my supervisor and actually printed it out on a piece of paper, these text messages it was taken way out of context. It was just kind of crafty of him. If you could just request that he show you the whole text conversation, I think that'll clear it all up. I hope he's found liable. I really do, because you don't have the right to play with somebody's livelihood and life like that. You can't just talk to people like that. You can't just act like that towards people like that. Oh boy, he's not getting it. He's not listening to me. Case closed. Do you have anything more to say? Okay, bye. I wasn't even done with my sentence. People were getting up because he was dismissing the whole thing. I tried to give the guy a handshake on my way out. It was just like a dead fish in his, that dead fish handshake. And my hand just like swallowed his entire, it was like this. He hated everything about me right off the bat. In the end, he said I was like, I showed no remorse. You're fired. Holy shit, I'm fired. I'm a veteran. I found a home working at a veterans hospital that I was pretty happy at, and it had been 5 years in. And I had a house and a mortgage payment like everybody else. My life was fully functional and had a lot of bills and a lot of costs and a lot of expenses. I was a contractor for most of my life. I've been, I have a lot of skills and all that, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted that federal job, and I just wanted to live life, do my best in my day of work, and then the rest of the day, the weekends, the holidays, that's for me to live. And I remember telling my oldest son, like, I'm not teaching you anything good here, but nobody's just going to do that to me and get away with it. And I told him straight, I'm going to walk in there. I'm not going to just like punch him and say, you'll get yours. I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to break his arm. I'm going to drop his back over my knee. And then who's ever closest to me trying to put their hands on me, I'm just going to break their freaking jaw one at a time until the police subdue me. And I'm ashamed of that now. My son was in all, as much of an all as I was, really. I'm going to do time for it. Probably won't be a whole lot of time. I bet you I'll do 60, 90, maybe 30 days. I don't know, something. I got to get him. Sorry. I got to get even. You can imagine how tormented and mad that I was. And when you really start thinking about things and bother people, got along with people, had a great time, had fun during work. To have a few dirtballs that know nothing about life, know nothing outside of their little circle, and never served anything but themselves. These scumbags probably weren't even Boy Scouts, and not to knock anybody that didn't serve, but something about it just, it was like baby little rascal shit, with these guys, like this nighttime supervisor guy with the with the secret code word, for a nigger. I was like besides myself, like they do that right in the open. And then he had the nerve to do that to me with the Man, you want to talk about just anger building up and building up and building up. The new guy from Virginia. I'll do right by the supervisor, huh? Here's a picture of my girlfriend. We're getting married. Like that's a spot on. Like, this guy's just like out in the freaking dust somewhere. The other guys that were involved, one was like just a little 100-pound, ready to retire. Like, he was an old man. This guy had the balls to say that I would like stick my chest out and things like that in their statements. Like, he's a little 100-pound little daggone like 60-year-old guy. If I'm gonna bully anybody, I'm not gonna bully a 60. The guy was the biggest racist, miserable, orneriest thief, steal everything from everybody. Like, I even caught the guy in my stuff. I caught him in other shops, like stealing things from other people, going through their personal stuff. I keep myself reasonably in check with living a life of integrity and trying to be a happy person. And some miserable scumbag like that, just having any kind of power over you, it was maddening. You're thinking about it after a while. One of the guys that made like statements lying that I bullied him and all that. My first impression of this guy was when I walked in to meet him. They were sitting at the little break table, and he was so dirty that where he leaned back in his little spot, the oil and the dirt, the guy was such a scumbag, it actually acted as a paint stripper and peeled the paint off the wall where he put, and it was like this nasty oil spot. That was my first impression of this guy, just to give you an idea. And the same guy was a union steward, right? Tried to make a stand against the higher ups. You know what they did? They recategorized him into another line of work to spank his ass, and he put on like a little maid's housekeeper outfit and went around cleaning toilets every day. He just sucked it up, shut his mouth, and went back to his regular job after they spanked his ass for a while like that. That's your union, Stuart. Oh boy. Your life that is spent at work, you know, that's a pretty good chunk of your life. You're gonna make friends, you're gonna have disappointment, but in my case, boy, man, they must have been miserable for a long time to finally see the chance to jump at a guy and actually get him fired, like toyed with somebody's livelihood. I remember someone told me, like for example, Joe Schmo, he has a letter from his church. He's a pastor at his church. And the director looks at it and goes, oh, he's a pastor. Oh, okay, you know, just for example. Well, I'm certainly not a pastor or anything like that, so I turned to these couple guys that work with me. I could use a written statement that says, you know, you work with me every day, you work with the other guys every day, and it's pretty unlikely what they're claiming. Never seen any signs of any kind of violence or bullying from me. Just a simple statement, you know, paragraph. I helped a guy get the one job and helped him with his resume, you know, spent hours on that shit for the freaking guy. I said, hey, I can use your help with something. Yeah, sure, anything. Well, you know, the statement thing, it would really probably be a good help. And, oh, I'm, you know, scared. The guy sits there and smokes weed in his truck all morning before he goes into the federal job, which is totally not what you're supposed to be doing. Real dirtbag shit. I go to the other guy. The other guy was like, you know, us vets, we gotta stick together, man. Yeah, of course, us vets gotta stick together. Yeah, well, until a vet asks you for something like a paragraph, little statement. Oh, man, I don't know. Scared. Some friend you are, supervisor himself. Smokes weed every day. Messes around with cheap floozy girls in his office every chance he gets. Real scumbag guy. Stinks like cologne, so you don't smell weed on him. That's the supervisor. That's what's going on in some of these VA hospitals. This one's no exception. So here's the kicker. For the past few years, I've been looking online and looking at land, just looking at land, thinking about different states and watching these people online that are off-gridders. And I was such a fan of it, you know, and I was like, wow. So I started fantasizing every day, every waking hour. I was off-grid. It was real hot on Missouri for a while, so I tuned into some of these guys' channels in the Missouri area, Arkansas, Idaho. Really got attached to the idea. And it was like a couple years at least of that, just watching these guys live off-grid and, you know, couples that do it, even with their families. And I was like, wow, what a better life I could imagine for some. And I wanted to see if it was for me too. And looking at land, and I never stopped. And finally, I bought some land. I wound up buying myself like 20 acres later on. But here's the thing. So I was kind of miserable with the life that I was living compared to the life that I started to want. Pursue things that I wanted to do and be a more authentic version of myself, which I think everybody should be able to do. Once I was thinking about it so often, the law of attraction, I'm telling you, man, it's real, because it was so I started becoming so disenchanted with the life I was living compared to the life I wanted to live that I was almost praying to be fired. I was thinking, like, how long am I going to go to this, like, job that I know I wanted and it's fine, but like 5 years in, it was a velvet coffin. I didn't want that, you know. And even though I was happy with, you know, I had a big house and plenty of land and all that, but I used to like visualize what would happen if I got up on a table and started like talking in tongues and holding my fingers up like I'm Buddha or something, and just like pretend like I'm speaking in tongues, and then I would think I'm crazy, and then I would get fired, and then I would be forced into going off grid and finally pursuing that life that I so desperately by that time wanted to at least try. And I was so upset. But I got what I wanted. I just didn't get it on the same terms that I might have preferred. But I actually got what I wanted. It just, I mean, like, it just materialized. So after a bit, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? You know, I'm thinking about going in there and busting this guy up, and what the hell am I thinking? I got what I wanted. Everything, down to the T. Busted my ass for years. I'm not broke by any means. Nothing's stopping me. I put my dogs into my car and had a moving truck also. Went clean cross country. It was almost like a storybook, like it was waiting for me. That 20 acres, just like... Now still, I hate the guy. I hate the dirtbags that I worked with. But that's how it came to be. And now looking back on it, you know, all I did was hope and pray, keep visualizing, keep thinking about what it would be to be off grid, how my life would be different. Sure enough, if you want something bad enough, and it's in your mind night and day, and you're able to visualize it down to the T, how you want things, I'm telling you, it really is something. I visualized being in an RV on my 20 acres while I build my house in the West. Way back, this is way back. Guess where I'm at? I'm in my RV, on my property, on my 20 acres, getting ready to build my house. Something, isn't it? So that's how I went off grid. Good luck to you. Peace.